great basketball.
Defender to the basket, Jason Tatum.
Be covering pre and post game back on this channel.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back into Celtics Post Game Live. I am your host, Rob Ate, and joined with me is my co-host, Justin Lowe. The Boston Celtics drop an ugly game one at home against the Miami Heat, 123-116. Jason Tatum led all Celtic scorers with 30 points, 9-17. An efficient shooting night for JT. He had 4 turnovers on the night. And then on the other side of things, Jimmy Butler did his thing for the Miami Heat. Really had an all-around masterclass. 35 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, 6 steals for Jimmy Butler. Shot 2 of 4 from beyond the arc. Just 48% from the floor. Justin, we got a lot to dive into. Not really surprised with this loss. It's kind of a trend for Boston to drop an ugly game at home, especially game one. They have lost now 4 straight game ones outside of the first round of the playoffs. Their past 4 series against the Bucks last year and the Heat last year, they dropped game one of which being at home, the other which being at the road in Miami. And then to Philly this year at home without Joel Embiid in Boston, and then again to Miami at home in Boston. You know the how it goes. Your initial thoughts, takeaways. You know, run me through where you're at right now.
I expected this. I just didn't. I just think this. I said this was like game one last year between these two teams. Boston had a solid first half, and then Miami took control in the third quarter, and essentially when it mattered most. I think 46 points in one quarter is quite pathetic. And the turnovers, Boston was shooting themselves in the foot, making Boston pay. Miami was hitting threes at a very efficient rate. Boston was doing nothing. I thought defensively we were just absolutely atrocious tonight. We were very lucky that the Miami Heat only ended up with 123 points. There is no excuse that a team should have 57 points at halftime and then by the end of the third quarter have 103. That is absolutely pathetic. That should not happen, especially on your home court. Home court advantage has meant nothing to Boston. They've their last 17 playoff games, Boston 7-10. 7-10. I think it's 8 of 11. Either way, that's pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. This was a game tonight where Peyton Pritchard was thrown into the mix, where try to get a little spark. That did nothing. I would have thought it made more sense to throw in Hauser or Grant over Pritchard, but I'm not going to sit here and say that's why we lost this game. But Tatum, the ball didn't go down the stretch. Jason Tatum had a historic, an NBA historic, not only a career historic performance in Game 7, and the ball never went to him. He traveled twice at the end.
When it did, he turned it over. Yeah, we were confused and lost in that fourth quarter. I mean, like, I'm not surprised at all. I think it's a frustrating loss, but it's a game in which Miami, they got 15 from Strauss, 15 from Vincent, 15 from Martin, 15 for Lowry, 20 from Adebayo. It's kind of like, first of all, it's identical to game one last year against the Heat. Great first half, really bad third quarter. You get it close in the fourth, but Miami they had enough going for them. If you eliminate the third quarter from this game, Boston win this game by 14. So I think that says enough about the skill gap between the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat. The Celtics are a much better and complete team. It's just about execution. That's really what it comes down to in the playoffs, is which team executes. Boston was kind of put in a tough situation in that third quarter. Joe couldn't really call a timeout. He only had 4 of them left, and what was expected to be a close game, you figure you need at least 2 of them for the end of the game, and one of them has to come in the fourth quarter. So you're kind of put in a tough situation there. The first half of basketball was all I needed to see, I think, in terms of we can't beat this Heat team. The defense, I think, will clean itself up. And again, it's just like, this is who the Boston Celtics are. They are a team that doesn't jump when opportunity arises. And it kind of raises the question is, can you be a championship team without executing properly? and taking that opportunity and running with it. I think the Celtics team is absolutely still a championship caliber team. Obviously, they're in the Final Four, and I absolutely still think they can get past this Heat team. But I do think there's a mental hurdle to get over with Miami, one of which being Jimmy Butler and two of which being Eric Spoelstra, both guys who are going to give you a really tough series. So coming into the series, I believe my prediction on our Instagram was 6. I think in the podcast I said 7. It's going to be one of those series again. Miami is not going to let you run them out the gym, and not in the playoffs at least. So again, I think tonight was the game ones are usually feel out games. I think everything you need to know is game 2. It's kind of a must win. Even if Boston loses, I still think they can go on the road and take 2 in Miami. However, Miami has now officially done their job in Boston. They stole a game. So we saw this against New York, and we saw this against Milwaukee. Once Miami steals a game, they protect home court. They have. So I think Boston is put in a really tough situation. They can't look past game 2 and get discouraged. I don't think they will. Everything they've showed me suggests that they won't.
Yeah, I mean, we've been in this position before, and but I mean, I kind of, not that I'm doubting the team at all, but I kind of figured the Celtics were going to drop game 1. I have Boston in 7. I have Boston dropping game 1. I had that from the start. It was the fact that they let up 46 points in one quarter. That's what I'm frustrated about. That's what I'm pissed off about. And they just, the opportunity is right there. They were up 72-58, and the opportunity was right there. And then you let Miami, look, I get it, a game of runs, and then Miami starts off the quarter on a 13-1 run, and then boom, all of a sudden, Celtics are down by what was it, a dozen going into the fourth quarter. So it was just that whole third quarter was absolutely ridiculous, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if I don't know what the timeout situation was necessarily with Missoula. I think he used 2 early timeouts in the first quarter, and Spoelstra didn't use the timeout till midway through the second quarter. So that was just this was just a really weird game 1, in a game 1 that felt as if it was deja vu. We saw this a year ago last year. The only difference was, instead of a green court, it was a red court last year, and it was in Miami. But look, Boston, you mentioned it. Boston dropped game 1 here. Boston dropped game 1 against Philly. Boston dropped game 1 against Milwaukee. They dropped game 1 a year ago against Miami. They ended up winning all those series. So series is far from over. Game 1 is one of those feel out games. It's one of those games where you love to win it. Obviously, you'd love to be the one in control of the series, but at the same time, you lose it. You cannot hang your head on that, because there's still a ton of series left. And like you said, if Boston can play the way they did in that first half when they were up 14, I mean, geez, this team is a force to reckon with. But they cannot stoop down to their own level. It's not like Miami. Give Miami credit in that third quarter, but that also, a lot of Miami's offense came from Boston's poor offense, right? Where they were turning the ball over, missing a lot of wide open shots. So take the punch on the chin and come out game 2 in Boston and tie up the series going back into Miami.
Yeah, and I think last year they were presented with a much harder task, and that was winning a game 2 on the road in Miami. So it just like how I think Miami's not gonna give it to us easily, Boston's not gonna give it to Miami easily. And I think that's something that if you can't understand that in the series, then you don't really know what you're talking about, unfortunately. Both teams are so battle tested, and both teams are so determined, I think, to make the finals, that this series really, I couldn't see it going anything less than 7. And I think last year's Miami's team was a much better team than what we're seeing this year against Boston. I think Boston shot themselves in the foot. 7 missed free throws, 15 turnovers.
7 missed free throws in a game you lost by how much?
7.
Right.
And then they only took 29 threes, shot 34%. I mean, Miami was shot 54% or 30. No, I'm sorry. They shot 34% from three. Boston. Miami shot 54% from two or from the field, 52% from three. So really, kind of like Philly last series, it was a game in which it was really a game in which Boston, they weren't playing up to their standard, and it was self-inflicted wounds. I tipped my hat to Miami, but they really only had a good quarter. Boston outplayed them in 36 minutes. They found the wherewithal to figure it out for that third quarter. But again, Boston was the better team tonight. Miami just had that one quarter, a lot like last year, in which that was just enough to put them over the hump and win the game. So Boston, I I think you see Boston win game 2 and 3. I think this is gonna be like Philly, and then you see us lose game 4 and 5. Maybe we win 5. I don't know, but again, I think this is going 7. You can't really look too far ahead in this series. But I mean, something I think you do have to keep an eye out is whether or not Spoelstra continues to play this defense in which they kind of give us all the twos in the world. They take away that 3 because Boston's offense so heavily relies on that 3-point shot.
Yeah, and that's something that we have struggled with in the past years is Miami's defense. More so Miami zone. Miami zone screwed us in the bubble. It screwed us last year at times. And this year, like you said, they're starting to take away our twos at least the 48 minutes of the series so far. It looked that way. And that's really tough because Boston only what did you say, 29 threes? Very similar to game 1 against Philly, where we only had 26 threes. And then the next, game 2 comes around in Philly and we shoot lights out. So expect a lot of 3-point shots. But the thing with Boston is, Rob, I'm scared that they're going to force their way into threes, like just start chucking them up. And I thought that at times tonight, that's kind of what happened. I thought that what happened with Marcus Smart. Smart hit a couple of wide open threes, and then he felt like he was on fire and just kept imploding on the behind the 3-point arc. But the offense has to be better. I mean, Miami always has active hands. Miami has been a solid defensive team for a while now. It's up to Boston. You can't turn the ball over. You cannot turn the ball over, especially Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. When it mattered most tonight, they weren't making shots. They couldn't even get shots up because they were turning the ball over. That can't happen.
Yeah, and I think that Boston's got to want it more than Miami. I don't know. I think Miami wanted tonight a little bit more. I think Boston got complacent once again. And Miami's talent doesn't touch the surface of what Boston has. They said this on the broadcast. Boston's 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 would be playing 30+ minutes a night on Miami. They have more depth. They have more star power. They're better at every aspect of the game besides coaching. And I think this series is going to come down to what team wants it more. We know Boston responds. It's who they are. They lose themselves for a game, and then that's who they are. They are a team that responds to when adversity hits. And in the playoffs, you see a lot of adversity hit because one loss feels like the end of the world, in which really it's not 1st to 1. It's not the NFL playoffs. It's 1st to 4. So I mean, I think I'm not worried with too much. I think our late game offense hit a wall in that fourth quarter. When we were getting stops on defense, we just weren't converting offensively. I believe the Miami went on a 3.5 minute period where they didn't score, and Boston couldn't put the lead within 4. It was at 5 for a while, and then they kept turning the ball over. They get a stop, they miss a shot, they get a stop, they turn it over, whatever it may be, right? Whatever combination pattern it was tonight. There was just self-inflicted wounds. So, I mean, I don't know, Justin, we'll see. I think I'm a lot less confident in this series than I was with Philly because I think of that Jimmy Butler factor where that dude is a bad man. He will kill you if you let him. But again, Boston has always responded. It's who they are. It's what they do. So until Boston doesn't respond, Game 2 at home, must win. Let's run it, right? Like, this is what the playoffs are about.
The last 6 possessions. So Celtics get within 5 with about 5 minutes left. It goes Jaylen Brown missed 3, Horford turnover, Tatum turnover, Brogdon misses at the foul line, Tatum turnover, and another Tatum turnover. So 4 of your last 7 possessions, or 4 of your last 6 possessions, in the 4 to 5 minute mark were turnovers. Boston is going to end up killing themselves. And I'm going to give credit to Miami's defense because I do think Miami plays very good defense. I think they pressure the ball very, very well. I thought they took Tatum out of the game fairly well. And they forced Boston out of their own offensive game plan. So you definitely got to tip your hat off to Miami here. But at the same time, the Celtics cannot afford to do that, especially in the second half. Celtics in that third quarter, especially, I mentioned it earlier in the show, big reason why Miami got out on that run was due to Boston turnovers and transition buckets.
Yeah.
Celtics also, I get it. The whole, you got to ramp up Robert Williams. He only played 26 minutes tonight, and he was balling in that first half. I don't know what happened in that second half, where he went or what happened, but he was my guy. I picked him for player spotlight tonight. 6 for 6 from the floor, 14.7 rebounds. I thought he was all over it. A lot of Marcus Smart's assists came from Robert Williams. I thought Smart's passing was solid tonight. I thought he forced a few jump shots that were unnecessary, but I don't know, Rob. To me, this was a scheduled loss. I hate to look at it in such a negative way, and I don't want to make it sound like I doubt the Celtics, but
That's a good way to put it.
but
That's a great way to put it, a scheduled
I just
loss.
feel like it was a scheduled loss. Like, people were talking to me about tonight, like, oh, what do you think of the Celtics? I'm like, honestly, I think Miami comes in and they win tonight, and it just, again, they didn't outscore us by 21 points in that third quarter. We would have won this game. And that unfortunately it happens to us more than other teams. But game 2, Friday night in the TD Garden, like, Celtics still have a great opportunity here, but Miami did what they were supposed to do and still won it on the road.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing much to it. There's really, it's not much more than that. I think that's something you have to watch out for. If I'm the Jays, they have to adjust. Miami did this to you last year. They're doing it to you again this year, and that is they play collapse defense. The second they try to put their head down and drive to the hoop, that defense is collapsing. Like, you see, they kind of put a 3-man wall up. There's the primary defender, and then there's the 2 opposite guys that are playing help defense. Help usually comes from backside paint. The man who's usually furthest away from the ball is usually playing that help line and helping off backside. That's the typical basketball right format on defense, is a scheme. Miami plays a side help. So when the Jays are driving, they drop their 2 wing perimeter defenders into the Jays.
Right.
And I think the Jays have a bad tendency to see them come, pick up the ball, and try to throw it somewhere, or they swipe they have to. There's a lot of things that the Jays can do better. And Justin, you made a great point. The Heat play this team so well, right? Yeah. So well. They match up really well against Boston. I think this was a morale win for the Heat. It was a reminder that they can beat us. They absolutely can beat the Boston Celtics if the Celtics aren't playing perfect basketball. The Celtics really need to play perfect basketball against Miami to beat them, more so than they have to play against Philly, I think. However, I do think that Boston has every utility to win the championship this year. And again, like, we have seen this with Boston. It's just like, it's so typical, in my opinion, for the Celtics to drop game 1 at home. It's like, that's what they're going to do.
There's essentially not much more to it. Took this loss, take it on the chin, come back game 2, come back and want it more. It's all about who's going to want it more. So that's all.
My question to you: what do you change for game 2? What happened tonight that you think that needs to change? Scheming wise, matchup wise, game plan wise, anything.
I don't know, something about the defense, man. I don't know what defense the Celtics are playing. I don't know if they're switching. I don't know what they're doing essentially. I really do think it comes down to effort. I don't think it's as complicated as we are seeing. I think it's about diving on those 50-50 balls. I think it's about not turning the ball over. And I know that sounds easier said than done, but at the same time, like I think it's things you go back and you look at it in film, and I could even sit here and rewatch the game and probably pick out about 100 little things. Like, it's not like we got blown out tonight, Rob. Like, there were a lot of little things that led to Miami going on that run. And I think the Celtics just got to tighten up. I think they have to focus. They have a task at hand. You can't look at the 8th seeded Miami Heat. You have to look at the Miami Heat. They're a good team. They're in the Eastern Conference Finals for a reason. They've been in the Eastern Conference Finals for a reason. You have to respect that. You have to go out and you have to win game 2. I don't want to just see the Celtics chuck up threes. I don't want Mazzulla to come and say, "Oh, well, we only took 29 threes," and then just force up threes. I want them to generate good looks. So whatever that looks like in game 2.
Yeah, I think I want to see their offense a little bit more in sync.
Non-stagnant.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of standing around. In game 2, I also kind of want to see no Peyton Pritchard. That would be great. I think this is a Grant Williams series over Peyton Pritchard.
I dude, I don't know if there's
I
something
also
personal
do
with Grant.
think I do think that when Miami rolls out Cody Zeller, you should roll out Grant Williams. Because I think that's a great opportunity to play switch defense. In that it kind of eliminates Jimmy Butler. It makes it harder on Jimmy. So if you roll Grant out there at the 5, you go a little bit smaller. But again, Cody Zeller is not going to kill you. It's kind of, in my opinion, like the PJ Tucker situation. You'd let PJ Tucker beat you. If he beats you, so be it. You tip your cap to him. When I see Cody Zeller out there, I want my 5 best perimeter defenders. And I'm switching everything with Jimmy Butler. So I'd roll out Smart, Brogdon, Brown, Tatum, and Grant. Or White instead of Brogdon, whatever guard you want to roll with. But I do think that's a great opportunity for Rob and Al to rest. But I don't go with the double big lineup this series. I don't, because Miami's got a lot of shooting. Even Kevin Love. You kind of have to defend the perimeter. And if you don't defend the perimeter, you might get killed.
I mean, you could even
Bam Adebayo.
You can even throw Grant on the perimeter against the Kevin Love. Like, that'd be a perfect match.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that, I mean, the Bam Adebayo works majority off ball. A lot of it's screen and pop, pick and pop, pick and roll. You never really see the pick and fade. He's got that little 10-foot little bunny hook or jump hook that he does. And I mean, you're not going to see these guys, Vincent, Strus, Robinson, Love, Lowry. Lowry had a big second quarter, I believe. Yeah. Where he scored like all 15 of his points in that quarter. They're not going to kill you on ball. They're just not. It's all coming off of looks from Jimmy Butler. This offense revolves around Jimmy Butler. So I think you kind of have to take a page out of Brooklyn versus Boston round 1 last year and play a really physical game with Jimmy Butler where you're denying him the ball, where you're hand checking him at times. And that guy, in my opinion, is Grant Williams, because Grant's a guy that can eat 5 fouls and you're okay with it because you have other directions you can go in.
I just don't. I don't know. I don't know if Grant and Joe Mazzulla have something going on, because it's weird how Grant has just been totally cut from the rotation. I thought we could have used him in the Philly series. Thought we could have used him in this series, and I know we've only seen one game, but another Peyton Pritchard blows my mind. Peyton Pritchard was the 7th man, 8th man off the bench tonight over a guy like Grant Williams. But I wonder if something internally is going on with Grant. I mean, he was just. You remember that in the regular season, towards the end of the regular season. I mean, he went from playing to not playing at all, and we haven't seen a healthy scratch since 2021, since 2 years ago from Grant Williams. So, that was weird when we first saw it, and now it's like this dude doesn't crack the rotation. Pritchard's cracked the rotation more, which is weird to say. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. The Pritchard thing was wild to me. Like, why the hell is Peyton Pritchard? There was, especially when your offense was flowing when he checked into the game. Like, the offense was good in the first half. So you figured, okay, you go to Pritchard with this team in the playoffs when you got nothing going offensively, and you kind of have to see if your 9 and 10 guys can give you something. Like Rafe Hauser can knock down a couple
That's what
threes
I'm
and get hot,
saying. I would,
and vice
I mean,
versa with Pritchard. But how many times did Jimmy Butler get probably 4 or 5 times that Jimmy got that switch on Pritchard, backed him down to that mid-range shot, and just pulled up right over him? You can't let Jimmy Butler stay on his line. If you let Butler stay on his line and get to the mid-range, he's going to eat you alive. We have to get physical with him. You got to take a book out of Ime Udoka's first-round scheme against Durant. You got to play physical. You have to deny the ball. And really, I'm playing Jimmy straight up. I'm not helping because this Heat team, these role players right now are knocking down big shots.
I just think game 2. Just move on to game 2. This game was just such a wash, and we mentioned earlier we would have won this game by 14, 15 points if had not we shit the bed in that third quarter. So I don't know what more to say, dude. It was just one of those games where the first half we looked like the best team in the league, and the second half we looked like the 8th seed. So I really don't know what to say other than go out and you have to want it more. Again, it's going to come down to that. Who wants it more? Tonight, Miami wanted it more, and I'm telling you right now, Miami would love nothing more than to go up 2-0 heading back home. So you have to win. I mean, if Celtics lose game 2, we're screwed. I'm putting it right there. I'm just saying we're toast if Celtics lose.
You don't think they can win 2 in Miami?
I'm not saying that. I just think the Celtics put themselves in an awful position. And you go down 0-2. You take one in Miami. You take one in Miami, and you lose one in Miami. You're coming back to Boston down 3-1. I don't have confidence in that. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Is it crazy for me to say that I could see this team coming back down 3-1?
Not necessarily, but I don't see it happening. I'm just because that doesn't mean I'm a fake fan before the people.
Sometimes I wish we could start the series. Sometimes I wish we could start the series with a free guaranteed 2 losses, because we are so much better when we're down than when we're up.
I get what
it's so clear.
Oh yeah,
like this team is so much better when our backs are against the wall, and I think the next hurdle for them to figure out. Again, still a championship contending team, obviously. We're Final Four. Still, in my opinion, the title favorites, the Boston Celtics. However, I think the next hurdle this team has to get over is finding that back against the wall dog mentality that they have on a nightly basis. If they can figure that out, then this team will be so unbeatable, because it's clearly not coaching. I'm sorry, but if you think it's Joe Mazzulla, you're flat out wrong. These are the exact same problems we were having with Ime Udoka last year in the playoffs. You guys act as if the Celtics didn't have an identical playoff run outside of the first round, which kind of was the Brooklyn Nets just being a really dysfunctional 7 seed. It's identical situations. Identical. It's not the coaching. This team, these players, they're the ones playing. Mazzulla, I think his scheming has been good. It's the players, and I think there's a couple directions you could go off-season wise if you don't win the finals, but again, that's not what we're talking about. So we'll see. I think, Justin, you said it. Game 2, season on the line. It's annoying that we have to play a game 2 with the season on the line again. But it's exciting because Boston responds. And I would be utterly shocked if they lose game 2 in Boston. Knock on wood. But I will be utterly shocked if Miami steals both on the road. And if they do, then we have a conversation to be had. Is the season potentially wrapped up? But still, it's first to 4, not first to 2. So let's see how it plays out.
Yeah, again, I said it before, just want it more. Don't go down 0-2. It's that simple. Believe it or not. Do not go. I don't care how you win. You don't have to win. You don't have to, win by 30 in the playoffs. You just have to win. It could be the ugliest win ever, and a win is a win. Every win is big. Every loss is big. So, you just 7-game series for a reason. Don't panic. We've been in this position before. We were in it last series. So yeah, I mean, hey, dude, again, like we said, if their role players are going to average 15, you got to tip your hat off to them. But at the same time, I don't know if I see that happening for a potential 6 more games. So we'll see. But Celtics, they dropped a tough one tonight, a game where it was in their hands, very much in their hands, and they let it slip away.
It's just, I can see it. I can see it happening. It's so identical to what happened last year. Watch, we'll win game 2. We'll lose game 3. We'll win games 4 and 5. And then we'll lose game 6. And then we'll win game 7. I mean, it's like, I can see it. I can see it happening. Game 1 was identical to the literally tit for tat identical. Just like the Philly series was identical to the Milwaukee series, almost to a T. Except I think against Milwaukee, we went down 2-1 and not up 2-1. Outside of that, game 6 was identical. Game 7 was identical. Game 1 was identical. Game 2 was identical. In game 5, in an essence, was identical. So, geez, I'm dropping everything over here. But, again, the Celtics, they dropped game 1 at home, 123-116. These late starts are killing me, man.
Yeah, they're killing me.
NBA, you should really do it at 7:30.
We're East Coast, dude. Both teams are East Coast.
Yeah, the West Coast gets what, 9:30, which is 6:30 their time.
No, they get 8:32, which I don't understand. Why do we get? Why do they?
Why can't? Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't understand.
Whatever.
And no West Coast team is paying attention to Celtics versus Heat. I'm sorry, they're not.
Yeah, and also it's like, yeah, whatever. Again, Celtics dropped game 1 at home, 123-116. JT led all Celtics scorers, kind of in a quiet 30.7 rebound affair. JB, he had 22 points. Smart, 10 assists in the first half. He was phenomenal through that first. Terrible in the second. He went down with a little hamstring injury, I believe, a little quad injury. He finished with 13 points, 11 assists. He was pretty solid tonight. On the flip side, Jimmy Butler, man, oh man, was he dominant. 35 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, 6 steals for playoff Jimmy. He's real and he is here. Game 2 will be held on Friday, May 19th at 8:30. Ugh, you can catch that game on TNT. We will have you covered for post-game live back here. I will be in attendance for the game too. So if you're going to the game, hopefully, who knows? Maybe I'll see you there. I'm excited. I'm Rob. Next to me is Justin. Guys, thank you so much for watching and joining us in on this late Wednesday night. And